Our lesson today is pretty quick, so we'll get through it probably in about 5 to 8 minutes, somewhere in that range. We're only talking about classifying triangles today. So lesson 36 is all about classifying triangles. You can follow along with me right after your power up if you want. Okay, so there are 2 ways you can classify triangles. The first is by angles. We can classify a triangle, and that means name it. Okay, so when I say classify, I mean name it. We can name a triangle based on its angle. So we could say acute triangle, right triangle, or obtuse triangle. If it's a right triangle, that means that it has one right angle and the other 2 have to be acute. If one of them is 90 degrees, and that means the other 2 have to be less than 90. If it's an acute triangle, that means all 3 angles are acute angles. They're all 3 less than 90. And if it's obtuse, that means only one angle is obtuse. One of them is greater than 90, which means the other 2 have to be acute, less than 90. Okay, now if I classify or name a triangle based on its sides, there are 3 names for that. 1, equilateral triangle. The way I know if it's an equilateral triangle is if all 3 sides are equal. So the side lengths have to be the same size. If it's isosceles, only 2 sides have to match. If it's scalene, all 3 sides are different. Not a single side has a matching side length. Okay? So let's look at an example. All 3 sides of this triangle are congruent. What does it mean if it's congruent?
It's equilateral.
Equal, okay, or the same. So if all 3 sides are the same, then which of the following terms does not describe this triangle? Is it equilateral? It's equilateral, so that one is out because I'm looking for one that does not describe it. Is it acute?
No. Yes.
It is acute because all 3 angles are acute. Could it be considered isosceles?
Yes. No. I don't know what that is.
Well, go back and look at what isosceles is. Raise your hand and tell me what it is if it's an isosceles triangle. Raise your hand. Davis.
It says that it has, I don't know where it is in our book, but I know what it said on the other page that you just flipped off of. It says that it has to be at least 2.
Yes, good. In your book, it tells you at least 2 equal sides. Does this triangle have at least 2 sides that are the same? Yes. Does it have one right angle? No. So this is the only one that it would not be classified under. Okay, last example. It says draw 3 angles with sides that are segments of equal length. Make the first angle acute, the second right. Ooh, that's tricky. I'm going to make a right here. And the third obtuse. Oh, hang on. It's not connecting. Let me redo this. I thought I had to connect it all. Okay, so I've got acute, and I'm doing segments, so I don't want lines at the end. I want right, and then I want obtuse. Okay, and those are about as equal as I can get my side lengths. Then for each angle, draw a segment between the endpoints to form a triangle. Classify each triangle by side and by angles. So now I'm going to connect the end of these segments to create triangles. Okay, so if my 2 red lines are the same length, okay, they're supposed to be the same, then how could I classify that very first triangle?
Right.
The very first one on the left.
Oh.
Equilateral.
Or isosceles.
It could fall under that too. We're going to name this equilateral acute. Okay, what about the middle one?
Isosceles.
Isosceles and right. And then the last one? Is it? Isosceles. And obtuse. Okay. Which triangle? has perpendicular sides? Which triangle has perpendicular sides? Savannah.
The right angle.
How do you know?
Because to make perpendicular lines, they have to form a right angle somewhere.
Very good. It has to form a right angle. And if you look at the two red lines, they are perpendicular and they are forming a right angle. So very good. Okay, it for our lesson today. Your work is going to start on page 244. You're doing all the written practice 1 through 30.